My mom said I was the dumb one, and she was going to make sure I stayed that way. She said it to her sister on the phone when I was 16, and she thought I was still at school. But I'd come home early because I felt sick again, the constant headaches and brain fog that made it impossible to focus during tests. I stood in the hallway listening to her voice through the kitchen door. "It's better this way," Mom said. "If Emma stays struggling, she'll always need me. She won't leave like the others did." The others, my two older brothers who'd both gone to college across the country and barely called anymore. My sister who'd gotten a scholarship and moved to Boston. I went to my room without making a sound and tried to make sense of what I'd heard. Mom had always told me I wasn't like my siblings, that I just wasn't built for academics the way they were, that some people are smart and some people need more help. I'd believed her. My grades were terrible despite studying for hours. I'd failed algebra twice. Reading gave me migraines. Teachers kept suggesting I get tested for learning disabilities, but Mom always said no, that I just needed to work harder. But what if it wasn't me? What if something else was wrong? I started paying attention, really paying attention. Mom made my breakfast every morning, special oatmeal that she said would help me focus. She made my lunches. She insisted I drink the vitamin smoothies she prepared. She was weirdly strict about me eating only what she gave me. When I tried to grab a granola bar from the pantry one morning, she practically knocked it out of my hand and said I needed proper nutrition, not junk food. That Friday, I pretended to drink my smoothie but poured it down the bathroom sink instead. At school, I felt slightly less foggy. Not normal, but better. Like someone had turned up the brightness on the world just a bit. Saturday, I dumped the oatmeal in the trash when Mom wasn't looking. Sunday, I did the same. By Monday, my head felt clearer than it had in months. I could actually focus on my homework without the words swimming on the page. Tuesday morning, Mom noticed I'd finished my smoothie faster than usual. She smiled and said she was proud of me for taking my health seriously. She made another one right there, insisting I drink it in front of her since I was doing so well. I had no choice. 20 minutes later, the familiar fog rolled back in. My head felt stuffed with cotton. In math class, I stared at equations I'd understood yesterday and couldn't make sense of them anymore. I started checking Mom's bathroom that night when she went to bed. Her medicine cabinet was full of normal stuff: aspirin, allergy medicine, vitamins, but in her closet, hidden behind shoeboxes, I found a locked metal case. I spent an hour picking the lock with a bobby pin, my hands shaking. Inside were pill bottles, 5 different prescriptions, none in Mom's name. Diazepam, lorazepam, something called diphenhydramine in a dose much higher than normal. I looked them up on my phone. Sedatives, anti-anxiety medications that cause drowsiness and cognitive impairment, antihistamines that made you foggy and unable to concentrate, all of them with side effects that matched exactly how I'd felt for the past 3 years, since I started high school. Since my sister left for college and I became the only kid left at home, I took photos of everything and put it all back exactly how I found it. The next morning, I pretended to drink my smoothie and breakfast. I poured them out when Mom went to get her purse. At school, I asked my counselor, Mrs. Rivera, if I could take a practice SAT. She seemed surprised, since I'd always refused before, but she set it up for the following week. Mom doesn't need to know, I told her. I just want to see where I'm at. That week, I didn't consume anything Mom prepared. I bought lunch at school with money I'd saved. I made my own breakfast before she woke up. The fog lifted completely. By the time I sat down for that practice test, my mind felt sharp for the first time in years. I finished sections I usually couldn't get through. I understood questions that normally looked like gibberish. When the results came back, Mrs. Rivera stared at them for a long time before showing me. Emma, these scores indicate you're performing at college level in every subject. This is exceptional, especially given your transcript. That's when I told her everything. And that's when I realized what my mother had really been doing to me all these years. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. Mrs. Rivera doesn't say anything for a long time after I finish talking. Her office feels too quiet. The only sound the ticking of the clock on her wall and my own heartbeat in my ears. Emma, she says finally, her voice shaking slightly, I need you to understand what happens next. As a mandated reporter, I have to contact the authorities immediately. What your mother has been doing is criminal. It's abuse. The word hits me like a physical blow. Abuse. I'd never thought of it that way, but of course that's what it is. My own mother has been poisoning me for years. I know, I whisper. I can't go home. You won't have to, Mrs. Rivera says firmly. She picks up her phone and makes 2 calls in quick succession, first to the police, then to Child Protective Services. I sit there listening as she explains the situation in a calm, professional voice that doesn't match the horror in her eyes. Within an hour, 2 police officers and a social worker named Miss Patel are sitting in the principal's conference room with us. I show them the photos I took of the medications. I tell them about the oatmeal and smoothies, about how my head cleared when I stopped eating what Mom prepared. We need to get you to the hospital for testing, Miss Patel says gently. If there are still traces of these medications in your system, it will help build the case. The case against my mother. The reality of what's happening starts to sink in, and I feel dizzy with it. At the hospital, nurses draw vial after vial of blood. A doctor with kind eyes explains they're testing for the medications I found, plus anything else that might be in my system. They take urine samples too. The good news, the doctor tells me, is that most of these drugs will clear your system relatively quickly once you stop taking them. The bad news is that we're finding significant levels of sedatives that confirm your story. While I'm at the hospital, the police are at my house with a search warrant. They find the locked case exactly where I described it. Mom comes home from work to find officers going through our kitchen, bagging the oatmeal and the blender she uses for my smoothies. I'm not there to see it, but Mrs. Rivera, who stays with me through everything, gets a call from the detective in charge. They've detained your mother for questioning, she tells me. She's denying everything, saying you're making it up for attention, that you've always had learning disabilities and you're trying to blame her for your academic struggles. The rage that floods through me is so intense I can barely breathe. She did this to me, I say through clenched teeth. She made me think I was stupid. She made everyone think I was stupid. We know, Mrs. Rivera says. The evidence is on your side, Emma. The preliminary tests already show traces of diazepam in your blood. There's no way you could have been functioning normally in school with these levels in your system. Miss Patel returns with news that changes everything again. Emma, we need to find you emergency placement tonight. You can't go home, and we don't have any relatives nearby who can take you in. She can stay with us, Mrs. Rivera says immediately. My husband and I are certified foster parents. We have a spare bedroom. I look at her, stunned by this offer from someone who was just my school counselor this morning. Are you sure? Absolutely, she says firmly. We can keep you safe while this gets sorted out. Miss Patel makes some calls, checks some databases, and within hours, it's arranged. I'll be staying with the Riveras temporarily while the investigation continues. That night, in the Riveras' quiet guest room, I finally have the space to contact my siblings. I start with my sister in Boston, calling her with Mrs. Rivera's phone since mine is still at home. Emma? Jenna sounds surprised to hear from me. Is everything okay? No, I say, and then everything spills out the overheard conversation. The medications, the test results, everything. There's a long silence when I finish. Oh my God, she whispers finally. Emma, I'm so sorry. I should have noticed something was wrong. We all should have. How could you have known, I say. But part of me is angry. How did none of them notice that I suddenly became the dumb one after years of being just as bright as them? I'm coming home, Jenna says immediately. I'll book a flight for tomorrow. I call my brothers next, leaving voicemails when they don't answer. By morning, they've all texted back expressions of shock and horror and promises to return home as soon as possible. The next day brings more tests, more interviews. The police have released my mother pending further investigation, but she's not allowed to contact me. She tries anyway, calling Mrs. Rivera's phone repeatedly until they block her number. She's saying she wants to explain. Mrs. Rivera tells me gently that it's all a misunderstanding. There's nothing to misunderstand about prescription bottles with other people's names on them, I say bitterly. About her telling her sister she wanted to keep me struggling so I wouldn't leave. That afternoon, the toxicology report comes back. It confirms what we already knew. Multiple prescription drugs in my system, all at levels that would cause significant cognitive impairment. The doctor who reviews the results with us looks troubled. These medications at these dosages would have severely impacted your ability to learn, to focus, even to form memories properly, he explains. The fact that you were able to function at all is remarkable. Your body must have been building some tolerance over time. Will there be permanent damage? I ask, the question I've been afraid to voice until now. We don't think so, he says. Your latest tests show the levels dropping already, and your brain scans look normal. Young brains are resilient. With the drugs out of your system, you should continue to improve. Jenna arrives that evening, rushing into the Rivera's house with tears streaming down her face. She hugs me so tightly I can barely breathe. I'm going to fix this, she promises. We're all going to fix this. You're not alone anymore, Emma. For the first time since discovering what Mom did to me, I break down completely, sobbing in my sister's arms for all the years that were stolen from me, for the person I might have been all along. The toxicology report is more detailed than I expected. Dr. Ramirez, the specialist they brought in, spreads out several pages on the conference table in front of me. Mrs. Rivera and Jenna. My sister's hand tightens around mine as the doctor points to highlighted numbers on the chart. We found consistent evidence of 3 primary medications in Emma's system. She explains, diazepam, which is Valium, lorazepam, which is Ativan, and significant levels of diphenhydramine, which is Benadryl. The combination would cause severe cognitive impairment, drowsiness, memory issues, and difficulty concentrating. Jenna's breath catches. How long has this been happening? Dr. Ramirez looks at me with sympathetic eyes. Based on hair follicle testing, we can confirm regular exposure for at least the past 3 years. That's as far back as this testing method can reliably detect. 3 years, I whisper, but it's been longer. I remember being good at school when I was younger. Then around 7th grade, everything got harder. That timeline would make sense, Dr. Ramirez nods. The dosing appears to have been consistent and carefully administered. Not enough to make you obviously impaired, but sufficient to significantly impact cognitive function. Detective Morales, who's been quietly taking notes, looks up. This is more than enough for charges. Child endangerment, poisoning, possibly attempted murder depending on the dosages. Attempted murder? I feel dizzy. She wasn't trying to kill me. No, Detective Morales agrees, but deliberately administering prescription medications to a minor over years without medical necessity, at doses that could have caused organ damage or death if miscalculated. The DA could make that case. My phone buzzes. Another text from Mom. It's the 12th since this morning. Emma, please let me explain. I was trying to protect you. You don't understand. I silence my phone without responding. The Riveras helped me get a new phone yesterday after Mom kept calling the house nonstop. She's not supposed to contact me, but restraining orders take time. Your mother has been released pending formal charges, Detective Morales explains. She's not allowed to come near you or contact you, but as you can see, she's ignoring that part. Why isn't she in jail? Jenna demands. She poisoned my sister for years. The prosecutor is building the case, Detective Morales says. We want to make sure the charges stick. In the meantime, we have officers driving by the Rivera's home regularly, and your mother knows she'll be arrested immediately if she shows up here. My brothers arrive that evening. Mark flies in from Chicago, and Jason drives down from his college upstate. They both look shell-shocked as Mrs. Rivera explains everything that's happened. I don't understand, Mark keeps saying, shaking his head. Mom always seemed so concerned about Emma's learning issues. She was constantly taking her to specialists, trying different approaches. It was all for show, I say bitterly. She was creating the problem and then pretending to try to fix it. Jason hasn't said much, but I notice him staring at the toxicology report, his face pale. Did they test for anything else? He finally asks. Besides the drugs they found? Detective Morales looks at him curiously. We did a comprehensive panel. Why? Jason swallows hard. Because I think she might have done this before. The room goes silent. Jenna is the first to speak. What do you mean, before? Jason looks at me, then back at the detective. When I was in middle school, I had this weird period where I couldn't focus, couldn't remember things. Mom took me to doctors who said I had ADHD, maybe depression. I was on all these medications that made everything worse. Then I went to summer camp for 6 weeks, and by the end, I felt completely different. When I came home, Mom tried to get me back on the medications, but I refused. We fought about it constantly. How long did this go on? Detective Morales asks, already taking notes. About a year and a half, Jason says. From 7th grade until halfway through 8th. After I refused the pills, she started making me these special protein shakes because I was getting into sports, but they made me feel weird, so I started dumping them out when she wasn't looking. The detective exchanges looks with Dr. Ramirez. We should test Jason's hair as well, to see if there's any residual evidence. That was 10 years ago, Jason says. Would anything still show up? No, Dr. Ramirez admits. But your testimony could establish a pattern of behavior. My mind is spinning. So I wasn't the first? She did this to Jason too? But why? Jenna asks, her voice breaking. Why would she do this to her own children? The investigators found her journal, Detective Morales says quietly. She wrote about her fears of abandonment, about keeping her children dependent on her. When Jason became independent despite her efforts, she seems to have shifted focus to Emma. I feel sick. All those years of struggling, of believing I was stupid, of watching my siblings succeed while I fell further behind, all because my mother couldn't bear the thought of me growing up and leaving her. That night, I can't sleep. I keep thinking about all the milestones I missed, all the opportunities lost. The anger builds inside me until I feel like I might explode with it. Around 3 a.m., I get up and go to the Rivera's kitchen for water. I find Mrs. Rivera already there, nursing a cup of tea. Couldn't sleep either? She asks gently. I keep thinking about who I might have been, I say, my voice cracking. About all the years I lost, believing I was the dumb one. You haven't lost as much as you think, Mrs. Rivera says. Your brain is young, resilient, and now that we know the truth, we can help you recover what was taken. I don't even know who I am anymore, I admit. If I'm not the slow one, the one who needs help with everything, who am I supposed to be? That's something you get to discover, she says. And Emma, based on how you figured all this out, how you gathered evidence and saved yourself when no one else noticed what was happening, I think you're going to surprise yourself with just how capable you really are. The next morning, Detective Morales calls with news. They've found prescriptions in my mother's name for all 3 medications found in my system, dating back 5 years. The doctor who prescribed them is being investigated for improper prescribing practices. We also found something else, he says, a recording on your mother's phone. It appears she recorded the conversation you overheard between her and your aunt. My heart pounds. Can I hear it? He hesitates. It's difficult to listen to, Emma. Your mother explicitly states her intentions to keep you medicated to prevent you from becoming independent. She talks about how she lost Jason and wasn't going to make the same mistake with you. The words hit me like physical blows. There's no more room for doubt, no possibility this was all some misunderstanding. My mother deliberately poisoned me for years to keep me dependent on her. She stole my potential, my confidence, and nearly my future. And now, as the fog continues to lift from my mind day by day, I'm left with the question that haunts me most. Who might I have become if she had just let me be myself? The courthouse feels too big and too small at the same time. I sit with my hands folded in my lap, trying to keep them from shaking as I wait for my turn to testify. Jenna sits beside me, her shoulder pressed against mine like she's trying to transfer her strength directly into my body. You don't have to look at her, Jenna whispers. Just look at Miss Carter when you answer the questions. Miss Carter is the prosecutor, a woman with kind eyes and a voice like steel. She spent 3 hours prepping me yesterday, walking through what would happen today, how to answer questions, what to expect from Mom's defense attorney. The defense is going to try to make you doubt yourself. She warned me. They'll suggest your memory is unreliable because of the medications. Don't let them shake you. You know what happened. I do know, but sitting here now, waiting to face my mother in court, I feel like I'm 7 years old again, desperate for her approval, afraid of disappointing her. The courtroom doors open, and Detective Morales slips in, nodding at me before taking a seat behind us. He's been a constant presence through this whole process, updating us on new evidence as they find it, making sure I'm protected. All rise, the bailiff calls, and everyone stands as the judge enters. Mom is already at the defense table, wearing a pale blue dress I've never seen before. Her hair is pulled back in a neat bun, and she looks smaller somehow, diminished. When she turns and sees me, her eyes fill with tears. I look away quickly. The judge calls my name, and suddenly I'm walking to the witness stand. The oath feels heavy on my tongue as I swear to tell the truth. Miss Carter approaches with a gentle smile. Emma, can you tell the court when you first realized something was wrong with your food? I take a deep breath and begin my story, the words coming easier than I expected. I describe the overheard conversation, finding the medications, my gradual realization that I wasn't naturally slow as I'd been led to believe, and what happened when you stopped eating the food your mother prepared for you. It was like a fog lifting, I say. I could think clearly for the first time in years. I started remembering things better, focusing longer. I took a practice SAT test and scored in the 93rd percentile after years of barely passing regular tests. Miss Carter nods and displays my test results on a screen for the court to see. These are your scores from before you stopped consuming the contaminated food, she says, showing a graph of my consistently poor performance. And these are your scores since. The difference is stark, a dramatic upward curve that makes several jurors murmur in surprise. How did it feel when you realized what had been happening to you? I swallow hard, like my entire life had been stolen, like I'd been living as someone else, someone my mother created. When it's the defense attorney's turn, he approaches slowly, his expression sympathetic. Emma, I know this has been difficult for you, he begins, but I'd like to talk about your mother's mental state. Were you aware that she's been diagnosed with Munchausen syndrome by proxy? I frown. That's not true. She doesn't have any diagnosis. Actually, our expert psychiatrist has evaluated her and believes she meets all the criteria, he counters. It's a mental illness where a caregiver, usually a mother, fabricates or induces illness in someone under their care to get attention and sympathy. She wasn't looking for sympathy, I say, my voice rising. She was deliberately deliberately keeping me dependent on her. She admitted it to her sister. Yes, but that behavior stems from the illness, he insists. Your mother wasn't acting out of malice, but from a profound psychological disorder that distorted her thinking. I feel anger rising in my chest. Does having a name for it change what she did to me? The defense attorney looks taken aback by my directness. It helps us understand why she did it. She needs treatment, not punishment. I needed protection, I counter, and no one gave it to me. When the defense attorney finishes, Miss Carter calls Dr. Ramirez to the stand. She explains in clinical detail the effects of the medications found in my system, showing brain scans that illustrate how the drugs would have impacted my cognitive function. In your professional opinion, Miss Carter asks, could Emma have achieved normal academic performance while these drugs were in her system? Absolutely not, Dr. Ramirez states firmly. The combination and dosage would make it nearly impossible for her to learn and retain information normally. The fact that she maintained even passing grades shows remarkable resilience. Mrs. Rivera testifies next, explaining how my academic performance skyrocketed once I stopped consuming the drugged food. Within weeks, she was completing advanced work, Mrs. Rivera says. Her writing improved, her analytical skills sharpened. It was like watching a completely different student emerge. When Jason takes the stand to describe his similar experience years earlier, I watch Mom's face. She doesn't look at him, keeping her eyes fixed on the table in front of her. Her attorney whispers something in her ear, but she shakes her head slightly. The most damning evidence comes when they play the recording from Mom's phone, the conversation I overheard that started everything. I can't let her go like I lost Jason, Mom's voice says clearly. She needs me. If she starts doing well in school, getting scholarships like the others, she'll leave. The medication keeps her dependent. It's for her own protection. Protection from what, Laura? My aunt's voice asks. From disappointment, from failure, from the world. She's the baby. She needs me. You're drugging your own daughter, my aunt says, sounding horrified. This has to stop. You don't understand, Mom insists. No one understands. When the recording ends, the courtroom is completely silent. I stare at my hands, unable to look at anyone. The judge calls a recess, and I practically run from the courtroom, finding a quiet corner where I can breathe. Jenna finds me there, wrapping her arms around me without a word. We stand like that until Miss Carter comes to tell us court is resuming. When we return, something has changed. Mom looks defeated, her shoulders slumped. When the judge asks if the defense has any more witnesses, her attorney stands. Your Honor, my client wishes to address the court. Everyone seems surprised by this development. The judge raises his eyebrows but nods. Very well. Mom walks to the witness stand, her steps unsteady. After being sworn in, she looks directly at me for the first time. I never meant to hurt you, she begins, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought I was protecting you. From what? Miss Carter asks sharply. From what happened to me, Mom says. I was the smart one in my family, the one everyone expected great things from, and then I failed. College was too hard. I couldn't handle the pressure. I dropped out, disappointed everyone. I couldn't bear to watch Emma go through that. So you decided to make her fail before she could even try? Miss Carter's voice is incredulous. Mom's eyes fill with tears. I wanted her to need me. All the others grew up and left. Jason fought so hard against me when I tried to help him, but Emma, she trusted me. She believed me when I told her she needed extra help. It was easier that way. Easier for whom? The judge interjects. Mom looks down. For me, she admits quietly. I was afraid of being alone, afraid of not being needed anymore. Her attorney tries to redirect the questioning, but Mom seems beyond caring now. She keeps looking at me as she confesses to years of systematic drugging, to manipulating doctors into prescribing medications, to carefully documenting which combinations produce the desired cognitive impairment without obvious side effects. I told myself it was love, she says finally, but I know now it was something else, something broken in me. When she steps down from the witness stand, she looks 20 years older. I feel nothing but a hollow emptiness where my anger used to be. The jury deliberates for less than 3 hours. They find her guilty on all counts: child endangerment, poisoning, and assault. The judge sentences her to 8 years in prison with mandatory psychiatric treatment. As the bailiff leads her away, Mom turns to look at me one last time. I'm sorry, Emma, she says. I'm so sorry. I don't say anything. There are no words that could possibly bridge the gap between us now. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowd around, shouting questions. Detective Morales and 2 uniformed officers create a protective barrier around me, Jenna, and my brothers as we make our way to the car. What happens now? I ask Jenna as we drive away. Now, she says, squeezing my hand, you get to find out who you really are. The courtroom empties slowly, people filing out in hushed conversations while I remain seated, unable to move yet. The verdict still echoes in my head. 8 years with mandatory psychiatric treatment. It doesn't feel like enough, but it also doesn't feel like it matters anymore. Nothing can give me back the years I lost. Emma? Jenna touches my shoulder gently. We can go now. Outside, the late afternoon sun seems too bright, too ordinary for such a monumental day. Detective Morales walks us to Jenna's car, keeping the reporters at bay with firm but polite refusals for comments. I'll check in tomorrow, he promises before closing my door. The hard part is over now, but it isn't. Not really. The trial might be finished, but my life, my real life, is just beginning. 2 weeks later, I'm packing my room at the Rivera's house. Mrs. Rivera stands in the doorway watching me fold the new clothes Jenna bought me after the trial. You know you're welcome to stay longer, she says. We've loved having you here. I smile at her, genuine gratitude warming my chest. You saved my life. I don't know how to thank you for that. You did the saving, she reminds me. I just provided a safe place to land. Boston is nothing like I imagined. Jenna's apartment is small but bright, with windows that look out over a busy street lined with trees. My room has a desk positioned perfectly to catch the morning light. I figured you'd need a good study space, Jenna explains, watching me run my fingers over the smooth wood. The tutors will be coming here 3 times a week. The specialized tutoring program was Mark's idea. He researched educational recovery specialists who work with students who've experienced traumatic interruptions in their education. My brothers pooled their savings to pay for the first 6 months. We're also meeting with a lawyer tomorrow. Jenna tells me over dinner that first night. About the lawsuit. I put down my fork. Lawsuit? Against Mom's estate, she explains. The house, her investments, everything. It should be used for your recovery and education. The thought makes me uncomfortable. I don't want her money. It's not about the money, Jason says through the speakerphone propped against the salt shaker. We're on a conference call with both my brothers during dinner. It's about justice and making sure you have what you need going forward. The lawsuit proceeds faster than I expected. Mom doesn't contest it. Her lawyer advises her to settle quickly to avoid further publicity. The court establishes a trust fund in my name, with Jenna as trustee until I turn 21. The money feels tainted, but I try to see it as my brothers do, as reparation, not inheritance. My first tutoring session is overwhelming. Dr. Patel, a former university professor who specializes in accelerated learning, gives me a comprehensive assessment that takes nearly 4 hours. Your natural aptitude is extraordinary, she tells me afterward, reviewing my results, especially in analytical thinking and language processing. The gaps in your knowledge are purely educational, not cognitive. We can fill those relatively quickly. I start crying right there in Jenna's living room, relief washing over me in waves. I'm not broken. I never was. The tutoring schedule is intense. 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. We start with foundational skills I missed, then accelerate through advanced concepts. Dr. Patel teaches me study techniques designed for gifted students, showing me how to process and retain information efficiently. By the third week, I'm devouring textbooks at a pace that astonishes even her. Your brain is making up for lost time, she explains. It's like a sponge that's been kept dry for years, suddenly given water. Jenna finds me late one night, surrounded by books, scribbling notes frantically. Emma, it's 2 a.m., she says gently. You need to sleep. I can't, I tell her, not looking up. There's so much to learn, so much I missed. She sits beside me on the floor, carefully moving a stack of papers. The knowledge isn't going anywhere. You have time. Do I? I finally look at her, the fear I've been holding back spilling out. I'm 17. Most people my age are applying to colleges now. I haven't even finished high school. And you will, she says firmly, but not by burning yourself out. This isn't a race, but it feels like one. Every time I master a concept, I see 5 more I need to learn. The anger that fueled me through the trial has transformed into desperate determination. In September, 4 months after the trial, I take the official SAT. My score comes back in the 98th percentile. Mrs. Rivera calls when Jenna tells her the news. I knew it, she says, her voice warm with pride. I absolutely knew you had it in you. By December, I've completed the equivalent of 4 years of high school curriculum. Dr. Patel helps me prepare a portfolio for college applications, explaining my unusual circumstances. We decide to apply for fall admission rather than waiting another year. Your test scores and the acceleration of your recent academic work make a compelling case, she assures me. The personal statement about overcoming your circumstances will do the rest. On Christmas Eve, I visit Mom for the first time since the sentencing. The prison visiting room is stark and impersonal, nothing like the cozy living room where she used to make me drugged hot chocolate on winter nights. She looks smaller in her prison uniform, her face thinner, her eyes clearer than I remember. When she sees me, her hands start trembling. Emma, she whispers. You came. I sit across from her, keeping my hands in my lap. I needed to see you. You look different, she says. Healthier, sharper. I am different, I tell her. I'm myself now. We sit in uncomfortable silence until she asks about school. I tell her about the tutoring, the SAT scores, my college applications. With each accomplishment I share, her expression grows more pained. Psychology, I say when she asks about my planned major. I want to understand why people do what they do, why they hurt the people they're supposed to protect. She flinches but nods. You'll be good at that. You always saw more than people realized. When our time is almost up, she reaches across the table but stops short of touching me. Can you ever forgive me? I consider lying, saying what would give her peace. Instead, I give her the truth. I don't know. Maybe someday, but not yet. In April, the acceptance letters start arriving. Boston University, Northeastern, Tufts, even Harvard, all offering places in their freshman classes. Jenna hangs each letter on the refrigerator, adding to the collection until the door is covered with evidence of possibilities. Which one feels right? She asks as we stand looking at them. I touch the Harvard letter, still not quite believing it's real. This one scares me the most. Then that's probably the one you should choose, she says with a smile. In August, 1 year after I discovered what Mom had been doing to me, Jenna helps me move into my dorm room at Harvard. As we unpack my books, so many more than I ever had before, she hands me a small wrapped package. From all of us, she says. Mrs. Rivera helped pick it out. Inside is a delicate silver necklace with a pendant shaped like a brain. To remind you of your greatest strength, the card reads, signed by my siblings and the Riveras, the one no one could ever take away. I touch it gently, thinking about how far I've come. From the dumb one to a Harvard freshman in just 1 year. From a girl who believed she was broken to someone discovering her power. That night, after Jenna leaves, I sit at my desk looking out at the campus that will be my home for the next 4 years. For the first time since this all began, I feel something unexpected. Gratitude. Not for what was done to me, but for what I discovered because of it. The resilience I never knew I had. The mind that refused to be permanently dimmed. I am not the person I would have been without this trauma. I'm someone else entirely. Someone stronger, more determined, more aware of the darkness people carry. As I open my psychology textbook for the first time, I realize I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.